I think an owner involved is very good. Now, my personal feelings, and I was on the committee to select Doug Peterson, so I sat in those meetings. I helped conduct the interviews. From my perspective, and you look at what Jeffrey and Howie have done, and we made that hiring, that worked out great. I wasn't there every day afterwards. We got it right with Doug Peterson to bring him in there. I do know that Jeffrey he's not hands-on, but he likes to know what's going on. And oh, by the way, he's the owner. I don't see any problem with that. That's the way it should be. The owner should know what's going on. But I don't think he's as hands-on as people think he's hands-on. He wants to know what's going on, but I don't think he's dictating a lot of these decisions. So I was surprised at the articles that have been coming out, but in a certain way, not surprised because, that's just the way it is. And in Philadelphia, people are going to dig. They're going to find something. You can do 100 things right. They're going to find the one thing that they're not happy with and hang their hat on that. But I think, I think Jeffrey's learned a lot as a team owner.
It is Birds 365. John McMullen, Jordan McConnell, Mac guys here with you, where we talk football on a daily basis. Mostly Philadelphia Eagles, but we'll go all around the National Football League when necessary. We're going to do that with our next guest. I see his name up there. I don't see his picture up there. Is Ron Jaworski ready to join us here on Birds 365?
Jody, how are you, my friend? Good
there he is.
Good to be with you guys.
I hear the voice. How are you, Jaws?
We got way too much technology in our lives right now. I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. At least we have audio. I'm working on video.
Gotcha. Appreciate you joining the show, Jaws. The more important part, I think, is that nobody knows more about playing the quarterback position in Philadelphia than you. Also, you think about your transition from player getting into the media industry. Your bell cow was sort of breaking down the fundamentals, the mechanics at the quarterback position. So I do want to ask you about Carson Wentz. To me, as a layman, been covering the league for a long time, I saw regression in mechanics from John DeFilippo when he left to where we got to last season. Is that fair to say when you broke down the film?
Yes,
of Carson.
Absolutely, John. In fact, you already mentioned, my role at ESPN for 28 years was basically the film wonk. I still maintain my office at NFL Films, study all the tape, get it. Now I get it at home because of the technology that we now have. 2 hours after the game, I've got the game tape. So I've always prided myself in letting the tape tell me how the quarterback is playing. I played in the league for 17 years, studied tape for 29 years. So there's a pretty good background of what's good and what's bad. And your quick assessment of Carson was spot on. Here's a young man with incredible talent. He's going to he's probably going to win a Super Bowl with the Indianapolis Colts. He's that talented of a player. But that being said, if you're not mechanically and fundamentally sound at the position, you're going to have bad streaks. And he got into a horrible streak last year. And kind of what precipitated, I thought, the run of bad play was the opening game against Washington. And I always try to give guys a little bit of a pass because it was a crazy pandemic year and no off season, no working out with your fellow wide receivers, no training camp, no mini camp, no preseason games, and all of a sudden opening day. So I was at that point, I was giving him a little bit of a pass for the erratic throws that he made. But the one before the half in that game was just a rookie throw. It was an out route to his left. The ball's got to be low and away to the outside, and it was thrown inside. So when I watched the play on TV, it was obvious it was a bad throw. But when I got the tape, I could finally look. I'm going to isolate on one play. There were many, many more, but this was kind of the one to me that tipped it off. Mechanics were awful. He had a closed lead step, and it forced him to come across his body. When you come across your body, you're throwing a slider like a pitcher. If the ball's not going to go straight, it's going to tail back to the inside. And it was an easy interception before the half. And to me, that turned the game around in that game. The Eagles holding a 17-0 lead. It may have turned their season around. But to me, bad decision, but more importantly, bad mechanics. And that's when it took off. Right after week 1, he was never consistent with his mechanics.
George, if you could see a breakdown in Carson Wentz's mechanics, if Johnny Mack could see a breakdown in Carson's mechanics, how did the Eagles coaching staff not see the breakdown in Carson's mechanics? I'm sure they did, but they couldn't get it corrected. Why not?
Yeah, there's no doubt they saw it. It's a solid coaching staff. Doug Peterson knows the quarterback position. He played it in the National Football League. He's worked with some of the best quarterbacks of all time. He knew there were mechanical issues. But what was clear to me that they couldn't correct them. Hey, by the way, he made a lot of great throws last year as well. The interceptions absolutely crushed him. But the thing that happened is when as his quarterback, and I've been there, guys. I threw like 160 interceptions in my career, so I know what some poor throws are along the way. But it becomes mental, and there is no doubt in my mind it became mental as the season wore on. Play design, play call was spot on. Receivers were open. He wasn't pulling the trigger. And I'm looking at tape and I'm going, throw it. The guy's open. I'm looking, I see with play design, receivers open. He wasn't throwing the football. So it just snowballed and became mental as well as physical and mechanical.
Jaws, how much of an effect do you think that the pandemic had as far as no off-season work? So when you're working on those mechanics, Jim Schwartz used to tell me the off-season is for teaching. And when you get into training camp, it's evaluation. Obviously, regular season is game prep. So a lot of your mechanical work happens in the off season, which has already been scaled back. Then it becomes all virtual. Do you think that maybe it sped up the slide a little bit?
Oh, John, right on point. In fact, I spend a lot of my time talking to coaches. And there was no doubt they were all very upset with the way things went last year. And not anyone specific. It was a pandemic. All the decisions were made for the right reasons. But the coaches could not coach. They were locked in their office for 12 hours with the door closed. Only communication was a Zoom. And it really wasn't until after the season when I started talking to a lot of coaches about their season and why it was so poor, whatever, not only in Philly, but other coaches around the league. It was impossible to work with the players on the field. It was shut down. And I look at it from my personal perspective. Just amazing the improvement I made with my receivers, Mike Quick, Harold Carmichael, Charlie Smith, Keith Krepley, John Spagnuolo in the offseason. And actually one season, Gordon Forbes charted. Remember Gordon Forbes, the old writer?
Sure.
Tremendous man, just a great reporter. He came as close as he could to charting how many throws I made in the offseason and regular season. And it was about 35,000 throws. And the majority of those were in the offseason, working every single day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at Veterans Stadium on that field, getting those indicators that are so important for a quarterback, getting all the receivers on the same page. Give me that shoulder roll. Give me that stick to the inside so I could read it and I can anticipate the throw. And there's no pressure at that time. You're not worried about a game. You're not worried about design of the offense. It's individual. Harold Carmichael, congratulations, Hall of Fame wide receiver. Harold and I worked in the offseason so often, 3 days a week. When he put that foot in the ground to the inside, I knew he was going out. That ball was in the air. If he stuck that outside foot in the post, he gave me that hint, that indicator when to throw the football. A lot of that happened in the offseason. So you take that all away, you're starting from scratch.
George, let me get your film work, a.k.a. scouting eye, on the Eagles' new starting quarterback. We asked about the old starting quarterback. Good luck to him in Indianapolis. The new starting quarterback is Jalen Hurts. We got a pretty good look at him. For a rookie drafted in the second round to come in and get as much work as he did, it's a nice basis to start your evaluation on. But it is another make-good year for Jalen Hurts. From what you saw last year, during the games, what you've heard around, the Eagles are making a commitment to him as their starting quarterback this year. What does Jalen Hurts have to achieve this year to make sure he's the Eagles starting quarterback for years to come? Is he capable of doing that?
Yeah, it's an incomplete right now, Jody. We haven't seen enough to say, oh yeah, he's the guy. It takes time to develop in this league. it's crystal clear if you look at the physical talents of Jalen Hurts. He has NFL talent. I spoke to a lot of coaches, I said earlier, about Jalen Hurts, and he is a football wonk. He loves football. He studies the game. He asks a lot of questions in the meeting. The players matriculate to him. They like him. He's got an effervescence for the game. You watch him on the field, a calmness, but you can tell the passion that he has. He has those intangibles as well. What he lacks is experience. And we saw when he first came in, and this is where I sometimes have a problem in quarterback evaluation by not saying I'm right or wrong, but we evaluate quarterbacks on ability to make plays with their legs. And everyone gets excited when a young quarterback comes on the field and he runs for a first down. And remember, I was with a guy, Randall Cunningham, for a couple years. I know about a guy that can break the pocket and make, exciting plays. And Jalen Hurts can do that. But as we saw after a couple games, defense is now locked in on him. The mush rush came into play. They didn't give him those lanes to run from. They didn't allow him to boot to the outside. Those things he had success with for a couple games, all of a sudden were taken away, and he had to play quarterback from the pocket. In other words, read coverage, anticipate throws, all those things that add to longevity at the quarterback position, he struggled with. So he started out really, really good. He struggled late, and so that's why I give the grade and incomplete. We need to see more of him.
Two things, Jaws. Because I asked you about Carson's mechanics. Where's Jalen as far as that part of his game, and then the leadership part of it? I mean, people gravitate to you. You're still talking about your guys. That's part of it. Harold going into the Hall of Fame. You mentioned all the great receivers you played for. To me, what I've seen about Jalen Hurts is people naturally gravitate towards him. He's a natural leader. He's an extrovert, at least in the locker room. He might not seem that way on the podium. How important is that to seizing that job as a quarterback one in this league?
John, leadership is absolutely, incredibly important. And when you walk in that huddle, you got 20 eyeballs looking at you. And those guys want to see how you're going to respond to every situation. And you begin that by winning guys over in the locker room, after practice, those bonding things that a quarterback has to do, with every single player on the team. I gave you a real life example because, a lot of things I do are relative to my career. And I knew as a quarterback, I was a kid that grew up in a steel town in Lackawanna, New York. And I realized when I got to the NFL, not everyone was like me. There are guys from Texas and California and Florida. And so you almost have to have the ability to adapt to all different kinds of personalities. And we used to call it here in Philly our attitude adjustment Thursday, where we'd find a place to go and have a beer after practice. And that's where you get the bond with players. If it's an African-American player, if it's an Italian player, if it's whoever it may be, you get to know those people, and expand your framework of influence and get to know those guys. So, when it's gut check time, you've developed that off the field personal relationship with the guys that they want to go to bat for you. They want to go to war with you. And it's vice versa. I feel the same way about them because I got to know them, that I have their back. Yeah, hey, something may go wrong. I've got you covered. A mistake is made. Hey, I'll cover it up for you. So I think Jalen Hurts, at least from what I heard, again, no one had any access to anybody live last year. A lot of it was guys I've talked to on the phone, that he has those attributes. He came from a great program in Alabama. You're in that program over there. You got a high scrutiny on you and everything you do. So he goes to Oklahoma and look at what he does there. So here's a guy that has played big-time football, big-time teams with big-time players. So he learned a lot in those college years and has transformed very well to the NFL.
George, we're talking to the Polish rifle, Ron Jaworski.
There you go.
It's on Birds 365. I'm going to tap into your tape evaluating wonkiness again. I know your favorite position is quarterback. I trust your evaluation of all positions, more so quarterback than anything else. Have you had a chance to break down looks like 5 guys who are going to go in the first half of the first round this year in the NFL's draft at quarterback? Everyone believes Lawrence is number 1, and then there's a lot of debate between 2 and 5. Have you had a chance to break them all down? Is this as good a class as it's going to be drafted? And how do you rank the guys who are going to come off the board 2 weeks from tonight.
Yeah, Jody, I would agree with your statement. This might be the best quarterback draft class I've ever seen, from top-end talent and depth. There could be 6 or 7 guys going in the first couple rounds. I mean, it is that good. And I got to tell you, I am amazed at the growth at the quarterback position. When I watch these young players now, I am just enamored with their talent. I'd like to say I'm an old school kind of guy, and that was the era that the game was great and all that stuff we like to say as old guys now. This NFL quarterback position now has changed. These guys are incredibly talented. What they are learning, and I won't even go to the college level, I'll go to their high school level. What these kids are doing, the 7-on-7 camps right now, out in the Midwest where most of these 7-on-7 camps are, these guys are unbelievable. The talent they have, the ability they have to read coverage, to get the ball out of their hand. I'm telling you, these RPOs and, the reads that they have to make instantaneously, I am just really impressed. And I've been getting impressed year after year. This group is even better. This is a very mentally intelligent, sharp group of quarterbacks. So you can just see it by their play. Trevor Lawrence is, to me, he's head and shoulders above everybody. I mean, he's experienced, and I'm a big guy in experience. I'm not big on these one-year wonders that did it for 1 year and expect them to, to carry on for a 10-year NFL career. I like that old Bill Parcells theory. Give me a guy that started 3 or 4 years, had a game where he threw 4 interceptions, had a game where he got knocked the game due to injury, had a game where they got clobbered by somebody, because that's where you learn about a quarterback. How does he respond after throwing 3 interceptions in a game, and you go back to work on Tuesday and you got to walk in the huddle and tell your teammates you're the leader? Those are the intangibles that we spoke about a little earlier. How do you win those guys over? So those are the important things that you have to have at the quarterback position. That's why I'd like the experienced guys that have been in those situations. And Trevor Lawrence is talented, or with great talent around him, but he's been beat up a little bit too, and he's been injured a little bit too. He didn't play the whole season last year. That hurt him as well. But I think when you look at the overall talent, the program he was with, Trevor Lawrence is special. Now, Zach Wilson is also, I got a guy, you can almost interchange some of these guys. Do you like chocolate or vanilla, or do you like Neapolitan or maple walnut? Each quarterback has certain talents depending on the scheme you want to run that will fit whatever you want. I mean, Zach Wilson is obviously, this guy is just skyrocketed. And man, I watch his pro day workouts. Whoa, this guy can rip it, man. He is big, strong, and can rip throws, and has that. You can't see it when you watch a game on TV, but when I watch his pro day, and this kid kind of had that, I call it a smile, smirk on his face, like bring it on. He wanted to compete. And I like guys like that just have that burning desire to be successful. And I saw that in Zach Wilson. Justin Fields has been a guy that when you look at tape, you get excited about. A little bit like I talked about Jalen Hurts. The thing I would say about Justin Fields, he wants to escape the pocket too quick. And I worry about guys. Now, hey, you can coach them out of that. You get to the NFL where you're working every single day. You can coach guys out of that. And he wasn't, to me, a read thrower. In other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go through your progression. He was like one and done. Like if the play's designed to get the ball to one guy and he's not there, he had a tendency to bolt the pocket too quick. And you know why? Because he could. It's an old line from Dick Vermeil. Jaws, you know why quarterbacks run? Because they can.
Because they can.
Yeah, because they can. And it can be a positive and it can be a negative if you don't know when to run. So that's what I see in Justin Fields. Great talent. He's going to be a top 5 pick, but he's going to need to be coached up a little bit. He's one of those guys, you see the physical talent, but he needs to be coached up. You could say that for all these guys, quite honestly. Trey Lance, another big guy, rip throws, mobile, run over people. I'm just a big quarterback that can run over people. Mac Jones, I like Mac Jones' talent. This guy's an accurate thrower. He played in a great program, tremendous wide receivers, pro-style offense, reading. I just haven't seen the gun-type throws. And I always say in the course of a game, you're going to have to make 2 or 3 throws where you need arm strength, where you got to squeeze it, particularly on 3rd and long, where you got multiple fast defensive backs in the game, and the window is very, very tight. Joe Flacco can make that throw. I'm not sure Mac Jones can make that throw. It didn't show. I didn't see enough of those throws where I say, oh yeah, he can rip it in there and he can complete every single throw. I didn't see enough of those type throws. That was a little bit concerning to me. Kyle Trask, the kid down in Florida, is a big number. These guys are all big. These quarterbacks now are 6'4", 6'5", 240. Those are my offensive linemen in 1973 when I came into the league. It's just amazing how big and strong these guys are and their intelligence. Very, very impressive. There's a guy that's kind of intrigued me that probably hasn't fit into the conversation, at least the people I talk to. The kid out of Texas A&M, Kellen Mond.
Kellen Mond,
yeah, very athletic guy. You could just see with good, solid coaching, I can see the innate ability to play the quarterback position, a little bit raw, but you could just see if someone's willing to take a flyer on this kid where you believe in your coaching staff, developmental guy. I mean, I think possesses great talent. He could be one of those guys. So, that's kind of a quick synopsis. I like the kid out of Notre Dame, Ian Bach, not as a top tier guy, but I watch enough Notre Dame games. This guy can make plays. He can throw the ball well. Fiery competitor, man. He got a burning desire to be successful. And so guys like that I think you take a shot with may not be a 10-year starter, but a 10-year backup isn't bad.
Hey, Jaws, while I got you real quick, I wanted to ask you, I'm sure you've seen the reports about the Eagles front office, the dysfunction, Jeffrey Lurie getting a little bit more involved in the day-to-day operations. You've been there as a consultant with some big decisions. What can you tell us about Jeffrey Lurie and how he gets involved as far as positive and maybe some negative?
Yeah, I people perceive it mostly as a negative, and I don't know why. I think an owner involved is very good. Now, my personal feelings, and I was on the committee to select Doug Peterson, so I sat in those meetings. I helped conduct the interviews. From my perspective, and you look at what Jeffrey and Howie have done, and we made that hiring, that worked out great. I wasn't there every day afterwards. We got it right with Doug Peterson to bring him in there. I do know that Jeffrey he's not hands-on, but he likes to know what's going on. And oh, by the way, he's the owner. I don't see any problem with that. That's the way it should be. The owner should know what's going on. But I don't think he's as hands-on as people think he's hands-on. He wants to know what's going on, but I don't think he's dictating a lot of these decisions. So I was surprised at the articles that have been coming out, but in a certain way, not surprised because, that's just the way it is. And in Philadelphia, people are going to dig. They're going to find something. You can do 100 things right. They're going to find the one thing that they're not happy with and hang their hat on that. But I think, I think Jeffrey's learned a lot as a team owner. I think Howie's done a good job in most regards, except drafting. This is going to be a litmus test for Howie. There's no question. A lot of picks in this draft, a lot of picks for next year, potentially 3 number ones. Howie's done a lot of good things. He hasn't drafted well recently, and he knows it. He knows he's got to start getting some base hits. He can't be striking out on these high draft choices, and that's the Achilles heel right now of Howie. And it's not just Howie, and he's got to organize his staff and from the coaching and scouting perspective. This is very important. In my years, 28 years, not only as 17 years as a player, but 28 years at ESPN and 5 years of doing Monday Night Football, I had great access to all these teams. Practices, production meetings, interview 10 players every Saturday and Sunday. You get a real inside view of each organization and how they operate. So to me, it's really clear that you better have a scouting department that is really in sync. It's not like I'm the czar and you do. No, you got to listen to these people. I've been in other teams' war rooms, their scouting departments' war rooms. You wouldn't believe the information they have on guys. We as maybe some fans just react to one thing. These teams have in-depth studies on every single player, and you've got to trust your scouting department. And I talked to Howie a lot. And I said, you've got to trust the guys you put out there, or get new ones. If you don't trust the guys you hire, then you've got the wrong people. So, I think I know they made some adjustments this year, and we'll see how it plays out.
George, last question for me.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you to put your 20-plus year analysis thought process aside. I'm going to ask you to put your Eagle favorite son advisor role aside, I'm taking you back to Ron Jaworski, the NFL quarterback days.
Okay,
If
I like that.
If there is dysfunction in the Eagles organization, whatever level it is, infighting, being reported on and the like, where the Eagles organization is at today, if you're a player, can you narrow focus so that you just stay in your task at hand, preparing for season, improving your own skills, getting ready for games week in, week out, even if you know there is issues within your organization, may be affecting your coaching staff, may not, but you have a job to do and you know what your job is, and you should be able to stay focused on that and not have what may be considered chaos around you within the organization affecting your job. How easy or difficult is that to do from a player perspective?
I think it's easy to do. I really, you have a job to do. You are a player. The average career in the NFL is 3.1 years. You have a very short career. You make a lot of money for a short period of time. Most players, in fact, my 17 years with different organizations, with the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Eagles, players are focused on their job. Number one, you got to make the team first. They're, for the most part, oblivious to some of the chaos that goes on in the front office. Yeah, you talk about it, but I think as a player, you realize, number one, you better win your job, then you better win your starting job, and then you better win. We all know it's a short career. We all know that, hey, if you don't win, it's shorter. So you focus on your job, you find a way to win, and you answer to your coach. Now, obviously, the front office has another job to do. They're another part of the building, the second floor, the third floor. At the old vet, I think it was a seventh floor. It was way up in the vet. But each team, there clearly is a segregation of the front office to the coaching and player side. And I think from a coaching and player side, you focus mostly on how do we get ready, number one, as a player to make the team, as a coaching staff, get the right players and win.
Last one for me, Jaws, so it's going to be a fun one.
I like fun ones, John.
Yeah, celebrity golf tournament coming up June 27th, 28th, Harris Resort. I think it's at Blue Heron, correct? In
that is correct.
Township. Yep. Your favorite, give me your favorite foursome. You played with a lot of famous people over the years. Give me a favorite foursome.
I can tell you what one that was a favorite. This guy wasn't the president at the time. President Trump. I had a chance to play with him about 8 or 9 years ago when I was doing Monday Night Football, and he invited Gruden and Tirico out to play with him up in Bedminster. So I had a chance to play with him, and the best part of it was he told stories, and every tee you had to wait because you had to tell a story. So it was memorable at that time. This was pre-presidency, so it was enjoyable. I had a chance to play with Jordan Spieth in a Pro-Am, who's now one of the great PGA players of all time, and that was really, really a lot of fun. And I had a chance to play with Charles Barkley way back in the day when he actually was a good golfer, John, before he had brain problems, and couldn't swing the club. But he actually was a good player. And again, when you're with Charles, you always have fun.
Oh, you always have fun.
I could probably go on and on and on and talk about the guys I played. But I do want to mention, John, thanks for bringing this up, because I've been running this golf tournament for 37 years. This will be the 37th year.
Nice.
We've raised over $6 million for at-risk youth in our community. And I get great pride in that. And I'll tell you a football story about this. Out at Hunting Park, we rebuilt the football field there. The Jaws Youth Playbook, which is my foundation, the Philadelphia Conservancy, and the Michael Vick Foundation. Rebuilt the field, put lights on the field up at Hunting Park. This kid was in the 7th grade at the time. We didn't know it at the time because it was a few years back. His name is Kyle Pitts.
Oh, wow.
He played on that field. Kyle, and we're going to do a story on it for the draft. Michael Vick and I our foundations made contributions to build that field, put lights on the field. We built a playground around there. And this kid was there. And we actually got pictures of Michael Vick throwing him a pass. I'm talking about it. And wouldn't you know it, it's Kyle Pitts. It might be the best player in this draft. He won't go as number one, but might be the best player in this draft. Local kid. That field we put at Hunting Park, based on people supporting my events, supporting Michael Vick's foundation. We give back. We help these kids in the inner cities. We help the kids that are at risk. And I thank all my sponsors, supporters through the years, because that's a really good story. You go play golf, but you're also helping a kid like Kyle Pitts, he's playing in dirt and mud. Also, he's got a brand new field to play on. It makes a difference, and we make a difference.
He's going to be playing on some pretty nice fields for the next 10
Yes,
years.
you're right, Jody.
I would tend to agree with that. Jaws, thank you much for coming on. We appreciate it greatly. We're going to tap into your wealth of knowledge. You'll be glad to know they put a picture up for you. And damn, you look good.
I got to work on my technology.
That's 20-year-old picture, man. That's taken from back in the Monday Night Football days. You're looking good.
I think that was 6 months ago.
Yeah, right. Jaws, good stuff. We appreciate it.
I'd love to join you guys again. So please don't hesitate to give me a shout. And I'm going to work on the video part here. I've got half it right. I got the audio.
We will certainly tap into you.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you much. That is Roger Jaworski here with us on Birds 365. We'll come back, put a bow on the show, wrap up this Thursday edition. Stay with us here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.